The energy blasts struck the diplomatic shuttle 7 times in rapid succession. Each impact sent Ambassador Sarah Chen and her 2 children tumbling against the reinforced walls of their cramped vessel. "Mom," 12-year-old Marcus screamed. As sparks exploded from the control panel above his head, "Stay down!" Sarah shouted back, her diplomatic training kicking in even as terror gripped her heart. Her 8-year-old daughter Emma was pressed against the far wall, eyes wide with fear, but silent as always when danger struck. The shuttle's hull groaned under the assault. Through the small porthole, Sarah could see the massive Zephyrian warships, surrounding them like predators circling wounded prey. Their sleek, biomechanical forms pulsed with an otherworldly light that had haunted humanity's nightmares for 3 years. "Attention, human vessel," a voice crackled through the comm system, each word dripping with cold intelligence. "You have violated our territory. Surrender immediately." Sarah's hands moved to the emergency controls. The shuttle's door mechanism had been damaged in the attack, its manual release jammed. But she had 2 children to protect in 3 years. Of failed negotiations had taught her that the Zephyrians respected only one thing: strength. "Like hell," she muttered, grabbing the emergency crowbar from the wall compartment. Chapter 2. The Human Factor 2 hours earlier. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from 47 species gathered in their floating seats. Sarah Chen stood at the central podium, her crisp diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the exotic forms surrounding her. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "humanity requests one final opportunity to establish peaceful relations with the Zephyrian Empire." A ripple of skeptical murmurs swept through the assembly. The Altarian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, pulsed with what Sarah recognized as amusement. "Ambassador Chen," the Altarian's voice resonated like chimes. "Your species has been attempting this for 3 of your Earth years. The Zephyrians have been clear. They consider humanity ... primitive." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Perhaps, but we've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. We've learned to adapt, to endure, to fight when necessary. That's not primitive, that's human." The Vorthan delegate, a massive creature with too many eyes, leaned forward. "The Zephyrians are not impressed by your survival instincts, human. They have eliminated 12 other species who made similar claims." "Then they haven't met the right humans yet," Sarah replied, her voice carrying an edge that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. The session ended with the same result as always: no progress, no hope, and another black mark against humanity's diplomatic record. As Sarah gathered her belongings, the Altarian delegate approached her. "You're taking your offspring to the Zephyrian border again," it stated, not asking. "My children need to understand what we're fighting for," Sarah replied. "They're the future of our species." "If your species has a future," the Altarian warned, "the Zephyrians are not known for their patience." Now, as Sarah forced the crowbar into the door mechanism, those words echoed in her mind. The shuttle shuddered as another blast struck them. "Mom, what are you doing?" Marcus asked, crawling toward her. "Getting us out of here," Sarah grunted, throwing all her weight behind the crowbar. The door mechanism groaned but held through the comm system. The Zephyrian voice spoke again. "Human vessel, you have 30 seconds to comply." Sarah looked at her children. Marcus had inherited her stubborn streak and her dark eyes. Emma had her father's quiet intelligence and unshakable calm. Both had been born after the Zephyrian War began, growing up in a universe where their species was considered barely more than animals. "Kids," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them, "remember what I taught you about being human. Never give up," Marcus recited. "Never give in," Emma added softly. "And never," Sarah continued, putting all her strength into one final push against the crowbar, "let anyone tell you what you're worth." The door mechanism snapped, and the shuttle's airlock began to cycle open. Chapter 3. The Standa Zephyrian. Boarding party was already waiting when the airlock opened. 3 beings that looked like a nightmarish fusion of insect and machine their bodies gleaming with biomechanical implants that pulsed with soft blue light. The largest one, clearly the leader, stepped forward. Ambassador Chen, it said, its voice a disturbing mix of organic and synthetic tones. I am Commander Zethkar. You will come with us. Sarah stepped protectively in front of her children. Under what authority? The authority of the superior species, Zethkar replied, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the shuttle's emergency lighting. Your kind has been deemed unworthy of continued existence. However, as a diplomatic courtesy, we will make your deaths swift. How generous, Sarah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. And my children. They will serve as specimens for our research into human emotional responses to trauma. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She felt Marcus tense behind her, ready to spring. Emma remained silent, but Sarah could sense her daughter's fear. I have a counter-proposal, Sarah said, taking a step forward. Zethkar's head tilted with what might have been amusement. Humans do not negotiate with Zephyrians. Maybe not, Sarah agreed. But mothers negotiate with anyone who threatens their children. She reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small device. The Zephyrians immediately raised their weapons, but Sarah held up her other hand. This is a cultural exchange token, she said, from the Altarian Collective. It contains the complete genetic and cultural history of the human species. We have no interest in your primitive, including Sarah interrupted, detailed analysis of human combat psychology during the Siege of New Geneva. The Zephyrians exchanged glances. The Siege of New Geneva had been their first major defeat against humanity, a battle where outnumbered human forces had held out for 6 months against impossible odds. Continue, Zethkar said cautiously. The Altarians have studied us for decades, Sarah continued. They've documented something they call the human factor, our species' unique ability to exceed all logical parameters when protecting what we love. She gestured to her children. These aren't just my offspring. They represent the future of human civilization. Right now, you're threatening them. Your point, human? Sarah smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the Zephyrians take a step back. My point is that you have no idea what you've just awakened. The shuttle's emergency systems chose that moment to fail completely, plunging them into darkness. In the split second of confusion, Sarah acted. She triggered the device in her hand, not a cultural exchange token, but a military-grade EMP generator. The Zephyrians' biomechanical systems sparked and failed, their weapons powering down. Run. Sarah shouted to her children, but Marcus and Emma didn't run. Instead, they moved with the fluid precision of children who had been trained by a mother who knew this day would come. Marcus grabbed the emergency plasma cutter from the shuttle's wall. Emma activated the shuttle's distress beacon, sending a coded message that would alert every human ship within 3 light-years. The Zephyrians recovered quickly, but not quickly enough. Sarah tackled the nearest one. Her diplomatic training forgotten in favor of the combat skills she'd learned in the underground resistance. The creature was stronger, but Sarah fought with the fury of a mother protecting her young. The human is displaying irrational behavior patterns, one of the Zephyrians reported into its communicator, requesting immediate backup. Mom, Marcus called out, wielding the plasma cutter like a sword, as another Zephyrian approached Emma. Sarah broke free from her opponent and saw her son standing protectively over his sister, 12 years old, scared out of his mind, but absolutely refusing to back down. It was the most human thing she'd ever seen. You want to study human emotional responses? She called out to Commander Zethkar. Study this. Chapter 4. The Revelation What happened next would later be recorded in the Galactic Council's archives as the Chen Incident, the moment when the entire galactic community's understanding of humanity fundamentally shifted. Sarah Chen fought with a ferocity that defied logic. When the Zephyrians cut off her escape routes, she found new ones. When they overwhelmed her with superior numbers, she used their own strength against them. When they threatened her children, she became something that transcended their understanding of primitive species. But it wasn't just Sarah. Marcus, barely 12, began strategically dismantling the Zephyrians' equipment with the plasma cutter. His young mind, processing tactical solutions faster than their computers, could calculate countermeasures. Emma, silent and observant, had been memorizing every detail of the Zephyrian technology, preparing information that would later prove crucial to humanity's defense. "This is impossible," Zethkar hissed as Sarah used a broken piece of shuttle plating to deflect his weapon's energy beam. "Your species lacks the neurological capacity for this level of combat efficiency." "Maybe," Sarah panted, dodging another attack. "But we have something you don't." "What? Something to fight for that's bigger than ourselves?" The rescue ships arrived 20 minutes later, faster than any human vessel should have been able to travel. Later investigation would reveal that Emma's distress signal had contained not just their location, but detailed tactical data about Zephyrian weaknesses that she'd observed during the fight. Captain Rodriguez of the human cruiser Defiant was the first to board the shuttle. What he found changed everything. 3 Zephyrians were unconscious, their weapons destroyed. Ambassador Chen was standing protectively over her children, a makeshift spear in her hands and a look in her eyes that made the veteran soldier take a step back. "Ambassador," he said carefully, "are you injured?" "We're fine," Sarah replied, though blood ran from a dozen cuts on her arms. "But we need to talk to the Galactic Council immediately." The emergency session was called within hours. Representatives from every known species gathered to hear Sarah's report, but it wasn't her words that changed everything. It was the recordings. The Zephyrians' own surveillance equipment had captured the entire encounter. The galactic community watched in stunned silence as they saw a human mother transform into something that defied their understanding of evolutionary biology. "The combat efficiency ratings are impossible," the Vorthan delegate stated, its multiple eyes focused on the data streaming across the chamber's screens.
No carbon-based life form should be capable of these reflexes. Add the tactical adaptations.
"Are beyond our models," added the Altarian delegate. "The human child's strategic thinking exceeds our computer's capabilities." But it was the Zephyrian delegate who provided the most shocking revelation. Commander Zethkar himself, his biomechanical form bearing the scars of his encounter with Sarah, spoke from the witness platform. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying a note that no one had ever heard from a Zephyrian before. "Respect. We have made an error in our assessment of the human species." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Our analysis was based on their individual capabilities, their technology, their social structures. We failed to account for their capacity for transformation when defending what they consider sacred." Sarah stood at the podium, her children beside her. Marcus bore a healing scar across his forehead from the plasma cutter incident. Emma held a small device she'd built from salvaged Zephyrian technology. "What are you saying, Commander?" Altarian delegate asked. "I am saying that humanity represents something we have not encountered before. They are not just another species competing for resources. They are a species that becomes exponentially more dangerous when threatened. Not less." The chamber fell silent. The human female disabled 3 trained Zephyrian combat units with improvised weapons and no external support. The male child demonstrated tactical thinking that rivals our military computers. The female child absorbed and processed technical information at a rate that exceeds our understanding of neural capacity. Zethkar paused, his multifaceted eyes fixing on Sarah. "Most disturbing of all, they did this not for personal survival, but for the protection of their offspring and their species' future. This suggests a level of sacrifice-based motivation that makes them effectively unpredictable in combat situations." Vorthan delegate leaned forward. "What is your recommendation, Commander? The Zephyrian Empire formally withdraws its extermination order against humanity? We request immediate initiation of diplomatic relations and mutual defense protocols." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. In galactic history, the Zephyrians had never backed down from a conquest decision. Sarah stepped forward. "The human race accepts your proposal, Commander, but we have conditions. Name them. No more tests. No more primitive species classifications. And if any member of this council threatens human children again, they'll learn exactly what the human factor really means." ### Epilogue. The New Paradigm 6 months later. The human embassy on Galactic Station Prime was unlike any other diplomatic facility where other species built monuments to their technological achievements. Humanity had created something else entirely. A home. The main hall featured a playground where human children laughed and played under the watchful eyes of their parents. The walls were covered with art depicting human history, not just the victories, but the struggles, the failures, and the quiet moments of love that defined their species. Sarah Chen stood at the main observation deck, watching her children play with young beings from a dozen different species. Marcus was teaching a group of Altarian energy forms how to play an Earth game called Tag. Emma was quietly showing a young Vorthan how to build simple machines from scraps. "They're remarkable," said a voice behind her. Sarah turned to find Commander Zethkar approaching. The Zephyrian commander had become an unexpected ally in the months since their encounter. "All children are remarkable," Sarah replied. "The trick is giving them the chance to show it." "Is that what you call the human factor?" Zethkar asked. "Your willingness to sacrifice everything for the next generation?" Sarah considered the question. "Part of it, but it's more than that. It's the idea that no matter how bad things get, no matter how impossible the odds, there's always a chance to make things better, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." Through the observation deck's windows, you could see the construction of the new galactic defense fleet. Ships from every member species worked together, their designs incorporating human innovations that had emerged from the study of those. "Desperate 20 minutes and a damaged shuttle. Galactic Council has approved your proposal for the new first contact protocols," Zethkar informed her. Sarah nodded. Under the new protocols, any species that threatened the young of another species would face immediate intervention from the combined fleet. It was a small step, but an important one. "There's something else," Zethkar continued. "The Entropy Collective has been monitoring our communications. They're requesting a meeting." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Entropy Collective was a mysterious alliance of species from beyond the galactic rim, known for consuming entire star systems. They had been moving toward human space for years. "When?" she asked. 3 days. "They specifically requested to meet with you and your offspring." Sarah looked at her children, still playing and learning with their new friends. Marcus had inherited her stubborn streak, but also her ability to see the best in people. Emma had her father's quiet wisdom, but also an innovative mind that had already contributed to 3 major technological breakthroughs. "Tell them yes," Sarah said. "But this time we're not going alone, Ambassador. This time, we're taking the whole family." Sarah smiled as she watched a group of young beings from across. The galaxy worked together to solve a puzzle that had stumped their parents. Human children, Zephyrian larvae, Altarian energy forms, and Vorthon offspring, all of them representing the future of their species. All of them proof that the universe was bigger than any one civilization's understanding. The Entropy Collective wanted to meet the humans who had changed everything. They would discover what every other species had learned, that humanity's greatest strength was not in their technology or their weapons, but in their absolute refusal to give up on the idea that tomorrow could be better than today. And if they threatened the children of any species, they would learn what the human factor really meant. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibilities. Somewhere in that vast darkness, new challenges awaited. But for the first time in human history, they wouldn't face them alone. The age of humanity standing apart was over. The age of humanity standing together with the galaxy had begun, and it all started with a mother who refused to let anyone tell her what her children were worth.